She told her co-workers, I'm basically single. He's just convenient. Not knowing I was behind her, he left, packed my things that night. She came home to an empty apartment and a note. You're not basically single anymore. You just are. Hey viewers, before we move on to the video, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button if you want to see more stories like this. Thanks. The coffee was still warm. That was the thought that popped into my head as I poured the dark roast into her favorite mug. The white one with a little cactus on it, I'd made it too strong. The way she liked it, even though it tasted like bitter asphalt to me, I added a splash of oat milk, no sugar, and placed it on the counter next to her keys. A small ritual, one of 100 that built the architecture of our life together. 3 years. 3 years since I'd met Chloe at a friend's disastrous barbecue where we bonded over the charred remains of a veggie burger. 3 years of learning the specific cadence of her laugh. The way she hummed when she was concentrating. The fact that she absolutely needed a cup of coffee before she could form a coherent sentence in the morning. Our apartment was a testament to that time. I'd painted every wall myself. Agreeable grey. She'd called it. And I joked that it was the perfect description for our relationship. We'd assembled the IKEA bookshelf together on a Sunday, her reading the instructions aloud with growing frustration while I wrestled with the cam locks, both of us collapsing in laughter on the floor. When it was finally miraculously upright, the small frame photo on that shelf showed us on a beach, her head on my shoulder, my arm around her, both of us squinting into the sun. It looked like happiness. It felt like happiness. I was the stable one. I knew that my job as a project manager was predictable, my salary reliable. It allowed Chloe the freedom to pursue her passion as a freelance graphic designer, even when her clients were slow to pay. I'd covered her half of the rent more than once, never keeping score. Because that's what you did when you were a team. You were the safety net for each other's dreams. Just last month, I'd been accepted into the MBA program I'd been eyeing for years. I'd shown her the acceptance email, my heart thumping with a mix of pride and anxiety about the cost, the time commitment. She'd kissed my cheek, her expression warm. That's amazing. Alex, but is now the right time? Things are still so shaky with my work. Maybe we should wait a year. Build up our savings a little more. We have plenty of time. I'd stored my ambition away on a high shelf content. We had plenty of time. Looking back, the signs were probably there, etched in the quiet moments. The way she'd started sighing when I talked about my friends, calling them boring. The way she'd roll her eyes at my weekly meal prep routine, labeling it predictable. The late work drinks that became more frequent. Her coming home with a buzz and stories about colleagues I'd never met. Her energy vibrant and distant, but love is a hell of a blindfold. I trusted her. I believed in the life we were building. The one with the agreeable grey walls and the lopsided bookshelf. I was committed. I was all in. I was, as I would soon discover, just convenient. A placeholder. A warm body who made the coffee and paid the rent. The text had come through at 4:37 p.m. Chloe. Big project win. Drinks at the Overlook on 5th. The whole team's going, you should come. I want to show you off. A little emoji. Kiss the punctuation. I'd stared at it. A warm flush of pleasure spreading through my chest. I want to show you off. She didn't always invite me to work things. Sometimes I got the feeling I didn't quite fit the vibrant creative image she cultivated there. But today was different. That morning, she'd let me tie her tie for her. A sleek black silk number, standing in front of the bathroom mirror. My hands on her shoulders. Her eyes meeting mine in the reflection. You're gonna knock him dead. I'd said, we're a good team. You and I, she'd replied, and the memory of it now felt like a shard of glass in my gut. I got caught up finishing a project brief and arrived at the Overlook later than I'd hoped. The place was all sharp edges and soft lighting. A rooftop bar with a view of the city starting to sparkle in the twilight. It was packed, pulsing with the beat of generic house music and the loud, relieved laughter of people. After a successful work week, I spotted her almost immediately. She was the sun in her little solar system, surrounded by a group of 5 or 6 colleagues, all sharp blazers and artisanal cocktails. Her laugh cut through the den, a sound I knew intimately, now feeling foreign. She was radiant, gesturing with a glass of something clear and fizzy, holding court. I felt that familiar pride. That's my girl. I started to weave through the crowd, a smile already forming on my lips, my hand ready to find the small of her back. That's when the crowd shifted, funneling me momentarily behind a large architectural potted fern on a raised platform. It placed me just 3 feet behind her group, completely obscured from their view, but close enough to hear every word as clearly as if I were wearing headphones. I was about to call her name when a woman with a severe blonde bob spoke up. So, Chloe, be honest, Are you and what's his name? Alex getting serious? 3 years is a long time. Chloe took a slow sip of her drink, a smirk playing on her lips. Serious. She let out a light, airy laugh that had no warmth in it. God? No. I mean, he's nice. He's comfortable, but serious. Please. The air left my lungs. It was a physical vacuum. A guy in a crisp blue shirt leaning against the railing chimed in. So, what's the deal then? You guys live together, right? The deal is, Chloe said, her voice dropping into a conspiratorial tone that carried with perfect, cruel clarity. I'm basically single. He's just convenient for now. Basically single, just convenient. The words didn't just feel like a blow, they felt like a redefinition of reality. The entire foundation of the last 3 years crumbled into dust in an instant. Convenient. Blonde Bob prompted her interest, visibly piqued. How so? You know how it is. Chloe continued, as if explaining a simple life hack. He pays half the rent on a fantastic apartment. He fixes things when they break. He's a warm body to come home to who doesn't expect much. But that's it. It's a placeholder situation. She leaned in, and I could see the profile of her smug smile. I'm definitely keeping my options wide open. I mean, have you seen Ben from accounting? Now, that is potential. He has a motorcycle. Alex would probably have a panic attack on a motorcycle. They all laughed. A unified, tinkling sound of agreement. I stood there, frozen, solid, the noise of the bar. The city, the world faded into a distant, muffled roar. I was a ghost already erased. I was the utility player. The reliable backup, the interim solution. The guy who made coffee and paid bills, while she waited for someone with a motorcycle to sweep her off her feet. I watched this stranger who wore my girlfriend's face, who used her voice as she casually dismantled our life, our love, my trust, and offered it up as a cheap sacrifice for social capital. I watched the betrayal unfold with effortless ease. The sheer unthinking cruelty settled over me like ice. I didn't move. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I didn't move. My hand, which had been poised to touch her, fell limp at my side. After a minute, that stretched into a small eternity. I turned. I didn't step forward. I didn't reveal myself. I didn't cause a scene. I simply turned and walked away. No one noticed I was ever there. The drive home was a study in silence. Not the peaceful kind, but a heavy, resonant, quiet. Like the moment after a bomb detonates and before the debris falls. My hands were steady on the wheel. My breathing was even. The frantic, shattered feeling I might have expected was absent, replaced by a cold, surgical clarity. The fog had lifted, and the path ahead was brutally, undeniably clear. I walked into our apartment. The apartment and the familiar scent of her jasmine candle in the air felt like a mockery. The cozy warmth of the place now seemed suffocating. I didn't slump onto the sofa. I didn't pour a drink. I went straight to the storage closet, moving with a purpose that felt both alien and utterly correct. And I pulled out my 2 large suitcases and a set of cardboard boxes I'd kept for moving season. I started in the bedroom, our bedroom. I opened the closet and looked at the divided space. Her side was a riot of color and texture. Dress, blouse, scarves. My side was neat, orderly, a line of button-downs, a stack of sweaters, a few pairs of jeans. I began with the shirts, sliding them off the hangers one by one. I didn't ball them up in anger. I folded them precisely the way my mother had taught me and laid them in the suitcase. Each folded shirt was another layer of insulation between me and the life I was leaving. From the bathroom, I took my toothbrush from the holder where it stood beside hers. Mirazor, the half-used bottle of the cologne she'd bought me for my birthday. The one she said she loved. I left the towel with the grey stripe. The one we'd argued was mine versus hers. It didn't matter anymore. In the living room, I stood before the bookshelf we'd built. I took my books, the project management textbooks, my worn-out copies of Vonnegut and Asimov. I left the design anthologies and the pop psychology bestsellers that were hers. My eyes fell on the framed beach photo, our smiling, squinting faces. A perfect lie. I didn't smash it. I didn't even open the frame. I simply turned it face down on the shelf and walked away. It was her memory to deal with. Now, I was a placeholder, so I was placing myself elsewhere. It took me 2 hours. The process was methodical, unhurried. There was no rage in it, only a profound and final detachment. When I was done, the apartment looked lopsided. A ghost of my presence remained in the empty spaces, the bare hooks in the closet, the vacant shelf in the bathroom, the gaps on the bookshelf. It was a negative image of a life. I sat at the kitchen table, The same one where we'd shared countless meals, where we'd planned imaginary vacations and discussed real worries. I took a single piece of the nice stationery we kept for thank you notes. The pen felt heavy in my hand. I didn't write a long emotional letter. I didn't list my grievances or try to make her understand the depth of the hurt. There was no point. She had already demonstrated she wouldn't or couldn't understand. Any explanation would be a form of engagement, and I was done engaging. I wrote 3 lines. They weren't an accusation. They weren't a plea. They were a statement of new fact. Chloe, you're not basically single anymore. You're just a... Alex. I propped the note against the fruit bowl in the center of the table. The bowl she always promised she'd keep filled with fresh fruit, but which currently held only a single withering lemon and a dusting of crumbs. I did one last walk through. Bedroom, bathroom, living room. I looked at the hollows I'd left behind. I felt nothing. No last-minute pang of loss. No flicker of what if. Just the quiet certainty of a necessary amputation. I placed my key on the counter. A final soft click next to the note. Then I walked out, pulling my suitcase behind me. I closed the door gently, not slamming it. I didn't look back. The hallway was empty and silent. The elevator dinged its arrival. As the doors closed, sealing me inside, I took a deep, clean breath. It was over. The hotel room was a blank slate. Beige was a generic landscape painting. The faint smell of industrial cleaner. It was perfect. There were no memories here. No ghosts in the corners. I dropped my suitcases by the door, the thud echoing in the sterile silence. I didn't turn on the TV. I just sat on the edge of the bed, the firm mattress barely giving under my weight, and I let the quiet soak into me. The initial cold clarity held firm. There was no weeping, no screaming into a pillow. It was as if the part of my brain that processed emotional pain had been surgically removed. In its place was a vast empty landscape. It wasn't peaceful, but it was quiet, and after the deafening noise of betrayal, quiet was a victory. I powered off my phone and placed it on the nightstand. Screen down. I didn't need the world intruding. Not yet. For 2 days, I existed in that bubble. I ordered overpriced room service, watched the city lights from my window, and slept a deep, dreamless sleep. I was a system and shut down, running only essential functions. The unfairness of it all was a fact. Not a feeling, a premise I'd accepted. She used you. You believed her. Now it's over. There was no arguing with the logic. On the 3rd morning, with a dull sense of obligation, I turned my phone back on. It erupted, a digital avalanche of sound and light, a delayed explosion of the life I'd left behind. First the missed calls, 7 from Chloe. Then the notifications for voicemails. I pressed play on the first one. My expression, neutral, Chloe's voicemail. Deset awesome nice pe. Alex, where are you? Did you get stuck at work? Whatever. Just call me when you get this. Okay, my key is not working. Her voice was tinged with annoyance, not concern. The next one, an hour later, Chloe's voicemail. Ernst, divine through the set. Okay. This isn't funny. Your stuff is gone. What the hell is going on? What does this note mean? You just what is that? Call me right now. Then the text began, a timeline of her shifting understanding. Chloe. Delapan nol dua. Day 2. Alex, seriously, what is this? Are you having some kind of breakdown? We need to talk. This is insane. Chloe. 10-41 I read the note again. Is this about what I said at the bar? You were there. That was just work talk. I was blowing off steam. You can't be this sensitive. You're overreacting. Chloe. You can't just leave like this. This is our home. My name is on the lease. You're being a coward. I read each message. I listened to each voicemail. I felt nothing but a distant analytical interest. Like a scientist observing the predictable behavior of a lab specimen. The anger was her first resort. Then the minimization. Just work talk. Blown off steam. She was trying to frame the nuclear destruction of our relationship as my inability to take a joke. I didn't block her. I didn't reply. I just observed. It was the first sign of the power reversal. Her screaming into a void, me silent on the other side. A week in, the tone shifted from anger to panic. The karma began to seep in at the edges. Chloe. Week 2. Alex, please. I'm sorry. I was stupid. And I was showing off. They were pressuring me. You're the best thing that ever happened to me. I love you. It was the first I love you. That felt like an insult. A transactional plea. not an emotion. Then the first external vector, my phone lit up with a call from Sarah, one of Chloe's friends, the one who always seemed to view me as a slightly disappointing accessory. I let it go to voicemail. Sarah's voicemail. Mark, it's Sarah. Look, I know things ended badly with you and Chloe, but you need to be the bigger person here. She's a mess. She's crying all the time. She can't afford this apartment by herself. You know, that her mom is on her case and it's awkward at work now. People heard about what happened and they're judging her. She needs you. Stop being so cold. I deleted the message. Be the bigger person. The mantra of enablers everywhere. It was no longer my concern. Her tears, her financial stress, her social humiliation. These were not my problems to solve. They were the consequences of her own words, finally becoming real. The texts from Chloe became more unhinged. A frantic dance between desperation and venom. Chloe. Week 3. I have to move out. I can't believe this. I'm packing up our home because of you. My mom is letting me stay with her. It's so humiliating. Are you happy now? Chloe. Week 4. I know you moved. Someone saw you. Where are you? We need to settle this. There's still stuff of yours here. Transparently. I have been thorough. Then the mask fell away completely, revealing the anger that was her true core. Chloe. Week 5. You're really going to ghost me after 3 years. You're a coward. Mark, a cold, heartless robot. No wonder I felt single. You were never emotionally available anyway. You did this. You destroyed us. I read that last one as I was unpacking in my new apartment. A sleek, modern 1-bedroom with a view I'd chosen for myself. I didn't delete it immediately. I saved it. It was a perfect artifact. A monument to her hypocrisy. She was the victim of her own actions, and I was the villain for accepting them. The storm was raging on the other side of the glass, and for the first time, I allowed myself a small, quiet smile. I was safe. I was dry, and I was free. The new coffee shop near my office became my sanctuary. It was all exposed. Brick and reclaimed wood, filled with the quiet hum of students and freelancers, a world away from the trendy rooftop bars of my old life. I was there most mornings, using the reliable Wi-Fi to review project plans for my new team. The promotion had come with a significant raise, enough to make the MBA program a possibility. I was reconsidering on my own terms. I was waiting for my latte. Scrolling through photos from a sailing trip I'd taken the previous weekend, a new hobby that filled my lungs with clean, salty air instead of the stale scent of betrayal. When I felt it, a presence hovering at the periphery of my space, I looked up. Chloe. She looked broken, not in a dramatic movie star kind of way, but in a worn down, frayed at the edges way. Her clothes, usually so sharp, were rumpled, her hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail, and the lack of makeup made her face seemed pale and vulnerable. Alex, she said, her voice, a thin wisp of sound. Chloe. I replied. My tone was the same. I used with a delivery driver confirming an address. Polite, neutral, devoid of history. Can I... She gestured weakly to the empty chair opposite me. I gave a slight non-committal nod. She slid into it, her movements hesitant, as if the chair might collapse under her. I've been trying to reach you. She began, her fingers twisting together on the table. For months, I know. The flatness of my response seemed to throw her. She'd probably rehearsed this, expecting anger or tears, or at least some kind of opening for negotiation. She took a shaky breath. I had to move back in with my mum. It's awful. She lectures me every day about responsibility. She never stops asking what happened. She looks at me, her eyes pleading for a reaction, for a shred of the sympathy I'd once lavished on her. I took a slow sip of my coffee and work. She continued, her voice cracking. It's been horrible. Everyone knows. They look at me like I'm a monster. That senior designer promotion I was up for, they gave it to Stacy. Can you believe that? I set my cup down. I can't actually... She flinched as if I'd slapped her. What's that supposed to mean? It means your actions have consequences. Chloe. You presented yourself as someone who uses people for their convenience. Companies tend to prefer leaders who demonstrate loyalty and integrity. I said it calmly, stating a simple business principle. You sound so cold. She whispered, a tear finally escaping and tracing a path through her pale skin. I'm just being realistic. I lost everything. Alex. The dam broke and a voice rose, drawing a few glances from nearby tables. My home, my reputation, you, everything. All because of one stupid comment. I didn't mean... No. I said, my voice still even. A rock against her crashing wave. You lost it all because that one stupid comment was the truth. You finally said out loud what you really thought of me, of us. I just believed you. I didn't mean it. She cried, her composure shattering. It was a joke. You're throwing away 3 years over a joke, over a moment of me being stupid and showing off. It wasn't a joke to me, and I'm not throwing anything away. I'm simply living in the reality you created. You said you were basically single. I made it official. You said I was just convenient. I decided to become convenient for myself for a change. She stared at me, her face a mess of smeared tears and raw anger. So that's it. After everything we had, after all the good times, you're just going to sit there and watch me drown. You don't feel anything. This was the core of it. The final question, I'm not watching you at all. Chloe, I said, my voice dropping to a near whisper, forcing her to lean into here, making my words more intimate and more final. I stopped watching you the moment I walked out of that apartment. Your life, your struggles, your consequences. They have nothing to do with me. I've moved on. You should try it. I stood up, slinging my laptop bag over my shoulder. I looked at her one last time. This woman who had once been the sun in my sky. I searched for any remnant of the love I'd felt, any echo of the pain. There was nothing. Just a vast, peaceful indifference. She was a stranger, and a mildly unpleasant one at that. I hope you find what you're looking for. I said, and I meant it. But I also knew with absolute certainty that what she was looking for, a convenient placeholder, was no longer me. I turned and walked out of the coffee shop. The bell on the door chiming softly behind me. I stepped into the bright morning sun, feeling its warmth on my face. I didn't look back. The past was a closed book, its weight gone. My future was a wide open sea. And I was finally, unquestionably, the captain of my own ship. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. What do you think about this story? Share it in the comments.